Hi, we're resuming here as part one of the Nashville Nutritarian meeting, February 16th, 2019, Nashville, Tennessee. Well, the state of the current health environment is very bad. Healthcare is becoming the main economic sector in our country and probably all over the world. Governments are going broke, and the misery, it just keeps multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. People are feeling really stressed out, and a lot of these problems are just, you know about, and I won't go into great detail, but we've got, in the 60s and 70s we had husbands and wives going to work every day, and so that adds a lot of stress when you have one person in the house during the day, sort of work on the infrastructure and get everything else done. It really, it just helps the whole household so much, the whole family so much. And so we've gotten away from that, and everyone can afford a car now, so our progress is sort of working against us. Since everyone can afford a car, the traffic's really bad. So we got those two people, husband and wife, leaving the house every morning and waiting in traffic, and that causes a lot of stress. And then it's really stressful when someone's coming out of their lane and they're on their phone and they're about to kill you. That's stressful. I feel stressed when that happens. That happens just about every time I get out on my driveway on the Holt Road. Somebody is coming out of their lane. I see them, they're about 300 yards away, and they're on their phone and they're like, oh, I'll get over when he gets closer. Well, that your multitasking abilities I don't have great confidence in, so, that's stressful for me, and I'm 10 and 2 here, eyes on the road, and but it's stressful, and my friends are dropping like flies. They really are, and they're getting. I heard 2 people with heart disease this week, 2 new people. Cancer, there's like 3 new people every week that I hear about that have, stage 4, stage 3, whatever, and it's really, they're dropping like flies. They really are. But the problem is, it's very gradual. It's like the frog in the frying pan analogy. You've heard that one maybe. But you turn the heat up gradually. And, it's like when you're getting in the bathtub, okay? When I get in the bathtub, it's like, oh, it's so hot, and I can't stand it. Then I'm in there for a minute, I'm like, yeah, it's not that hot. I need some more hot water. And I crank the hot water on, and it gets hotter and hotter. Well, we're just so gradually getting acclimated to how bad things are, that we're not waking up. The alarm bells aren't going off. And that's why we're having so much trouble. And then I'm going to talk about the food, in the supermarket, you've got these humongous, buildings, warehouses, super automated warehouses, and it's amazing, the technology, and the technology and the automation is good, but you've got the organic produce section, and that's a teeny little bit, and that's maybe 1%, and then you've got the packaged food industry, and so all those foods that are packaged and barcoded and automated, and this folks isn't working. The disease, that I think that is really part of the problem, and I'll talk about why I think that's the case. So we have these distribution networks, and the food's just being brought in from all over the world, and these corporations, these Fortune 100 corporations, are doing exactly what we want them to do. They're giving us these foods on time, fast, and so forth. And the problem, the change needs to really start with our understanding. People perish for lack of knowledge. And so what we've got to understand is what food is healthy and what food is not healthy. And so, how should I start this explanation now?
So define food.
Okay, food.
There's toxic food like substances, and then there's food.
Okay, thank you for that. So there's actual food, which is food that was created in the garden, and then there's toxic food-like substances. And what I want to sort of put on your radar is the idea that food originally was. Food was originally in the garden, and so, or the orchard. And so, and I get that from Genesis 1, it's, you know, and I get that from just the truths that I've seen in my own life, things that have worked. And so, the closer we eat to the garden, the better off we are. The more we move away from the garden, the worse off it is. Let me give you an example, kale. Okay, kale is rated as, if you go to the Joel Fuhrman ANDI list, A-N-D-I list, Joel Fuhrman rates all the foods from the most nutritious to the least nutritious.
Dr. Joel.
Dr. Joel Fuhrman, best-selling author. And you can download this PDF. I have it on my fridge, and I'll take you over there and show it to you. And so, the most important foods are the most nutritious foods. So there's the ANDI list right there. Okay, you see that? These are 1,000, and as you go down, it gets worse and worse. And then as you go from left to right, I'll try not to make you dizzy, you see what's on the bottom. Okay, so now look at the proximity of the score. Like, see how that's 1,000? All these things come out of a garden. All these things, right here, come out of a factory. And so, bear that in mind as we make food decisions and food choices. You want to eat out of a garden, not out of a factory. Now, there's many ways to do this. You can join a community sustained agriculture. You can just go to the organic produce section. You can grow it yourself. You can wildcraft it, which means you find it growing wild, and there's lots of really great food. And in the part of this video on the garden, I'm going to go outside in mid-February. We've had really frozen weather. I'm going to find you some great food. And it's food I'm eating every day. So what's happening is we got the stress, we got the factory food as opposed to the garden food, and then we've got the lack of connection. So we all have these technological innovations that are keeping us from being connected the way we're supposed to be connected. Let me give you an example. So we learned how to build houses, really in an automated way. And we got into the factory. And when the factory was created, we could all live sort of in these urban communities. And so we all moved out to the suburbs, you know, in the 50s and the 40s and the 60s. And so that was the first step towards lack of connection, or I'll call it isolation. And then they had this garage door opener. Remember those came along? And so now you could pull into your house, click your garage door, go into your garage and shut the door behind you. And then you didn't have to see your neighbors, which is great if you hate your neighbors, but which is part of the problem. But you know, and then you know it started with this the cell phones, you know, and now we see all these 2-year-olds on cell phones, and we're all, you know, I'm on my cell phone a lot, and you're watching this video on your cell phone. So you know, it's just a tool, but the tools can result in a lack of connection. You know, that garage door opener is great when you're getting out of the rain, but it's not so great when, you know, your neighbors, you know, wanting to connect with you, and you just go in, you know, into your garage and shut the door behind you, and don't say hi to to your neighbor who you hadn't seen and you don't even know, and you've lived there 20 years. You know we all know what I'm talking about. And so the technology is a tool, and it can be used for good and for bad. But these tools, we've got to be the master of the tools and use them for the good, and to understand that we were made to operate in communities and to connect, and for our families to interact. And so this is all very very important. And we also need to understand that stress. Now, any farmer knows that if he puts too many chickens in a small place, those chickens aren't going to thrive. They're going to peck each other. It's going to get violent. And let me give you an example of this. So I'm coming out of my driveway, and we're going to see the All-Star Ravenwood basketball team. This is about 2 weeks ago. I turn left out of my driveway, and I'm going 38 and a 40. And my wife and I are just, you know, we're enjoying our relationship, you know, in the car there, having a great talk. You know, we're excited about the game, and I'm going 38 and a 40. Well, this guy gets right on my tail, flashing his lights, beeping his horn, and Melanie says, "Honey, pull over, pull over." He's going to pull out a gun or something. You know, she got scared. And I said, "No, honey, I'm just not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on, you know, the great time we're having now, talking, and we were really just enjoying the company." And where I was going to pull in, this guy actually took a right and went into another neighborhood. And there were cars like in front of me. I mean, it was like rush hour traffic. You know, it wasn't like if I sped up to 40 in a 40, you know, I would have been right on the tail of the guy in front of me. But this guy was just, you know, he's like that chicken that comes and pecks the other chicken just to be nasty, and because he's angry and bitter. And so we live in an angry and bitter society, and no one thrives and no one's happy in that. That's why I'm really reaching out to this audience now, you included, as a community, because we you know, we thrive together or we die together. We, you know, we rise and fall together. And so I think that's really important to understand and to really to value the community that we find health in. And what's wrong with making a little less money? I mean, hey, we all got lots of toys. You know, but you might be driving a $100,000 car, but you're still going 5 miles an hour in traffic, folks. So maybe if you drove a $10,000 car and just got a little happier, you know, and, you know, didn't go to work as much, or, you know, one of your spouse or you could quit, and you could just not you know, have to be in the rat race, and, you know, find something else really great to do. And there's lots of great things like making videos that people watch, and, you know, and making an impact, you know. Okay, now I want to talk a bit about the food. I have a friend, Dan, who used to work for one of the huge food companies. They make like all these name brand foods that you know, and I don't want to get all their lawyers on my back because what I'm about to say is pretty damaging. And so the way it works in these big food corporations, and there's many of them, and these are the Fortune 100 type companies, okay? And they buy up all the brands. Like you might like grape nuts, okay, but you know someone bought that up. Or you might like this microbrewery beer. Well, that's been bought by one of the big beer companies. So you might think it's not, you know, it's sort of they're hiding behind this disguise of a conglomerate global corporation. And so without going into too much of the MBA stuff, what happens is they've got goals and you've got goals. Well, your goals aren't their goals, and let me explain how this works. So the goal of, let's pick a particular kind of candy or soda or, you know, packaged, you know, ramen noodles, something like that. Their goal is not your goal. Their goal is to sell that product over and over and over again. And so the accountants have one job. Their job is to measure the progress in money. And then the people who formulate the ingredients and the products, the product development team, their job is to respond to the accounting data and make the food more compulsory or more, what's the word?
Addictive.
Addictive, yeah. And we're going to talk about that and why that's the case. And so, but they're not using just, you know, your regular eggs and sugar and kinds of, you know, regular type food ingredients. They're using very high-tech and largely untested food ingredients. And then you've got the drug companies, and their job is to sell drugs. And they don't really, that's their agenda. That's their goal is to raise their revenue selling drugs. So if the foods make you sick and buy more drugs, you see we're caught in a downward spiral. And this will continue, and we've got the Food and Drug Administration, you know, regulating this, and I would advocate them being separate functions, the Food Administration and the Drug Administration, because when they're put together, there's a conflict of interest, and there's a moral hazard, and I think that's one of the reasons so many people are succumbing to serious degenerative diseases and death in our country. And this is happening all over the world. It's not just a United States thing. But so that's the state of the current health environment. The stress, the food, and the lack of connection. I cite as three of the main ones, but there's probably a lot more that I'm missing. And so I'm going to stop part 1 there, and we're going to come in next with part 2, the Nutritarian approach and why it works. So thanks for watching, and we'll be right back.